Today, we're digging into a massive shakeup of India's workplace laws. We're talking about the new rules under the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, or the OSH Code for short. And trust me, these are set to change the day-to-day reality for pretty much every single employer and employee across the country.
So, just imagine this for a second. What if there was just one single rule book for safety that covered every job in India? I mean, from a software developer working in a fancy high-rise to a miner working deep underground. Well, that's the huge, incredible ambition behind the OSH Code, and we're about to break down exactly how it plans to pull that off.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the new unified rulebook itself. Then, we'll dive into the new duties for employers, the big changes for contract work, how safety's actually going to be monitored, and we'll wrap up with what's maybe most important, your new rights as a worker.
Okay, first things first. We have to understand the core idea driving this whole thing. And really, it all boils down to one goal, moving from total complexity to, hopefully, a lot more simplicity.
You know, the best way to think about it is like this. The old system? It was a super messy library, right? Dozens of different dusty old rule books for factories, for mines, for construction sites, you name it. The OSHE code basically just throws out that entire library and gives everyone one single, modern guidebook that applies to the whole country.
And look, this is not some minor update. It is a complete overhaul. The new code replaces 13 major, long-standing laws. You're just seeing a few of the big ones here. The factories rules, rules for migrant workers, for construction, all of that different, complex stuff is now rolled into one single national standard.
So a single rulebook is a nice idea, but what does it actually ask of employers? Let's take a look at their new foundational responsibility.
The first really big change is a huge push to go digital. No more piles of paper forms. From now on, every single business has to register online through the government's Shram Suvidha portal. It's a pretty straightforward three-step process, all designed to get every workplace logged into one central official system.
Now here's the number that actually represents a really important new benefit. 45. For workers in those higher-risk jobs, think factories, mines, construction, once you turn 45, your employer now has to give you a free health checkup every single year.
The code also brings this intense new focus on urgency when something goes wrong. When it comes to reporting accidents, there is absolutely zero wiggle room for delays.
And the deadlines are super strict and specific. If there's a death or some other really dangerous event, notice has to be given forthwith, which basically means right away, immediately, to the authorities and, crucially, to the worker's family. For any serious injury that keeps someone from working for 48 hours, the inspector has to be told within 12 hours. The message here is crystal clear. Speed and accountability are everything.
All right, let's shift gears and look at how these rules are creating a totally new national system for one of the biggest parts of India's workforce, contract labor.
Okay, this is a real game changer. It used to be that contractors were drowning in paperwork. They needed a separate license for every single state they operated in. Well, that's all gone. Now they can apply for one single national license that's good for 5 years and covers their work across the entire country. That's a massive cut in red tape.
So how much does this new license cost? Well, the whole idea is to be fair. The fee scales up depending on how many workers a contractor has, and to give a leg up to the smaller guys, if you have fewer than 50 workers, you don't even need a license at all. That gets rid of a huge hurdle for them.
But hey, it's not just about making life easier for contractors. There's also a brand new vital protection for workers. Contractors now have to put up what's called a bank guarantee. They deposit a security of 1,000 rupees for every worker. So, if that contractor ever fails to pay wages, this money can be tapped to make sure the workers get paid what they're owed. It's a really important financial safety net.
So, having new rules is one thing, but who's actually going to make sure they're being followed on the ground? Well, that's where two key groups step in. These on-site safety committees and a new type of inspector.
To keep eyes and ears on things, workplaces now have to set up safety committees. And if we take a mine as an example, you can see the structure is very deliberately balanced. Yes, you have management, of course, but you must also have equal representation from the workers themselves. This makes sure their voice is right at the center of the safety conversation.
The old role of the inspector is also getting a major makeover. They're now called inspector-cum-facilitators. And that name change really tells you everything about their new mission. Their job isn't just to find what's wrong, but to actively help and guide workplaces to do things right.
And this new focus on being a facilitator is backed by procedures that are built on transparency. For example, if an inspector needs to test a substance, the process is incredibly careful. They have to divide the sample into 3 sealed parts right there, in front of the employer, who gets to keep one. It's all about ensuring fairness and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay, let's bring this all home. After all the rules for employers and inspectors, what does the OSHA Code actually mean for you, the employee? What are your new fundamental rights?
2 of the most important rights are about your time and your pay. First, the standard work week is now legally capped at 48 hours. That's it. And second, if you're ever asked to work more than that, you are legally owed overtime pay at double your normal rate.
The code also brings in some brand new protections for some of the country's most vulnerable workers. For people who have to travel across states to find work, there's now a new right called the Journey Allowance.
And this is a really big deal. Once a year, a migrant worker who qualifies is entitled to a paid round-trip journey home. The employer has to provide a lump sum of money to cover the travel fare from their workplace all the way back to their home state and then back again. It's a critical new benefit.
So when you boil it all down, the new rules, the new licenses, the new rights, it all comes back to this one very powerful idea: one code, one standard, with one single unifying goal: making workplaces safer and healthier for every single person in India.
But of course, writing down the rules is just the first step, isn't it? The real question, the one we'll leave you with, is this: will the actual, on-the-ground implementation and enforcement be strong enough to turn these ambitious words into a real, tangible change? Well, that is the challenge that lies ahead. Thanks for watching The Explainer.